Good morning. It's often said that when it comes to challenging the accepted way of doing things in a long-established industry, it's often beneficial to bring in somebody who's completely ignorant of it. Hello. No, actually, I can't claim to be completely ignorant, but they do also say that a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and this is where you'll find I do fit the bill. 2 years ago in Scottsdale, I talked about the technologies that some of the leading figures in the industry predicted we'd all be taking for granted in the next 20 years. Shortly after that, I set up a design challenge feature in IVT, where some highly innovative vehicle designers tackle a different brief in each issue, such as creating a wearable industrial vehicle, replacing hydraulic technology, or eliminating whole body vibration. I found the 30 or so brand new vehicles that they've created in response to be so inspiring that, to be honest, ordinary new lift trucks that still rely on wheels, masts and batteries or engines no longer really excite me. I've also started to wonder just how hard can it be really. So I thought today might be a good opportunity to pass on to you OEMs out there the journalist's view of what would constitute the ideal forklift truck if money, or in some cases a complete lack of business acumen on your part, were no object. So let's start at the business end of the truck. If you saw the recent edition of our Advanced Lift Truck Technology Annual, then you'll know that its design challenge covered alternate mass solutions. We had some fascinating entries, but they all still relied on forks, and I wanted to know if there was something even more efficient. As the industry becomes less reliant on standard pallets, I initially thought that perhaps a less destructive version of an orange peel grab could be the answer. So I briefly considered adopting Mike Turner's virtual interface idea from our September 2009 issue, where the grab attachments mimic the operator's hand movements in a localized field generator. Somehow, though, I couldn't quite see these having the required flexibility or sensitivity. And then I stumbled across this fascinating Indian invention called the Octarm. This device is made up from 3 pressurized rubber tubes, and they can pick up objects as difficult as a basketball. Now, while this is obviously still in its infancy, I don't think it's too much of a stretch of the imagination to assume that its strength could be greatly increased while retaining this exceptional level of flexibility and maneuverability. The arms mimicking the shapes created by this guy here. And again, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility for this device to eventually be shrunk down to the size of a joystick so that it could be controlled one-handed from the operator console. I then turned my attention to a more efficient way for the truck to travel over the floor, ideally while reducing the turning circle. Again, if I can plug our recent Lift Truck Technology Annual, we covered one particularly innovative solution in this regard, the 360-degree pivoting wheel of the Max truck. But this is patent protected, so I also considered the concept of annually arranged articulating segments instead. This is a work in progress with some superficial similarities to the omnidirectional wheel, but with several potential advantages, which you can read more about on page 11 of the annual. But it still wasn't quite sexy enough, and then I was reminded all about the screw drive. The Armstead snow motor was invented about 90 years ago, and in my opinion is woefully underused. Just think of the maneuverability and stability this would offer, as well as the incredibly low ground pressure for outdoor applications. But most importantly, it's just incredibly cool. I'd encourage you to check out the 1924 promo link at this web link because it's absolutely hypnotic. Now, there's a potential problem in the possibility for floor marking, of course, but I've come up with a very cunning way of solving this, which I'll come back to after we've looked at how to power this thing. So the choice of the latest drive technologies can be pretty much summed up as hybrid or fuel cell. And while neither of these are in common use just yet, they've been around for so long that I'm already becoming blasé about them. What I wanted to find was a clean and super efficient fuel source. Ideally one that, like the fuel cell, could really enable major rethinks in the area of lift truck design due to its compact and concentrated nature. And that's exactly what I found. I'm not too sure how familiar you are with antimatter, but its energy per unit mass is around 4 orders of magnitude greater than that of nuclear energy. In fact, reacting just 1 kilogram of antimatter with a kilo of matter would produce the equivalent of 43 megatons of TNT. So essentially we'd be looking at a fit and forget type of fuel solution here, one that would last far beyond the lifetime of the truck, assuming that you could actually switch it off between shift size. Of course, every new solution has its teething troubles, and this one would be no exception. The main problem being that as antimatter production is currently about 10 nanograms per year, the costs are optimistically forecast to be $24,000 trillion per ounce. So even though economies of scale from a spearheading of this technology by the automotive sector could quite possibly halve these costs, I think we might need to leave this one on the shelf a little while longer. But that's okay, because I found something that's even more exciting. The Khan was an electric race car project developed by Mazda for the 2008 Los Angeles Auto Show. It uses this patented electronic tire system under the assumption that by 2025, California's highways will have been resurfaced with a sub-level electroconductive polymer to power electric cars. So going back to that screw drive, we could tip it off with this same substance here that would not only protect the warehouse floor, but power the truck as well. There'd no longer be any need for a separate battery room in the warehouse, and truck utilization would soar. I even started to ponder the implications of lightning conductors or solar panels on the warehouse roof to provide clean, free power to the floor, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself there. So, how would all this look when combined into one machine? I don't hear you ask. Well, I asked my good pal John Pope from Pope Design to come up with a few sketches, but his head exploded. But let's be honest, it would probably look pretty terrible anyway, so no harm done. So on that basis, I think it's probably best if I leave this subject to the experts after all, which is where we're in luck, because as part of their usual industry sales forecasts, our next speakers will this time also be addressing the subject of the lift truck of 2025.